to do was do a quick introduction to Photoshop, because Photoshop can be a bit overwhelming with all of the different tools that it has, and it can be challenging. So what I'm going to try to do is make it less challenging by just laying out the kind of obvious things that you're going to need just to be able to get started. And then that information will be useful for you at any point where you might get lost. So another thing I think is really important is that you're open and willing to just search on YouTube, because that makes things a lot easier. If you have any challenges, anything with Photoshop, the internet is completely filled with information related to it. So it's like boundless resources. So there's a lot I'm not going to tell you, because it would just be repeating stuff in ways that I think probably I won't do as well as some of these amazing people that have created content on the web. So hopefully that's not annoying, but it's going to be the best thing we can do. So one thing, if you use Mac, here are some things that you should get. You should get Alfred. Alfred is the most amazing thing ever. You just type in Photoshop and it opens it. It's a quick launcher. It's very similar to doing this on Spotlight, The thing is, it's not as fast. Spotlight's just not as fast as Alfred. Alfred is like rock and roll fast, amazing. So definitely get that if you can, if you have a Mac. And if you have a PC, I know that there are quick launchers out there, so I would encourage you to look for one, because it makes life a lot easier. Here's your Photoshop window. So beautiful. I really am happy about the changes they've made recently with CS6, with the Creative Cloud. It's just amazing. This is, I think, a much more attractive piece of software than the previous form of Photoshop. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. I'm going to say a couple of other quick apps that I think will make your life better. Those are delicious looking pancakes, by the way, that somebody made. I love that. I collect a lot of funky, freaky images. Things like, I made this one the other day. It's kind of funny. Hello. Little Doctor Who action. Isn't that the cutest cat ever? Anyway, so I collect a lot of images, so don't be taken aback if you see some strange thing. I don't even know what this is. A three-headed cobra. I think that is photoshopped. I don't know. It might be. So you're going to see strange things every once in a while on my screen, and if there's anything that is not, if it hurts your feelings or makes you think that I'm an asshole, please let me know. I'm very curious. I don't want to do that. But some of the things are kind of wacky, like this crazy tattoo. Whoa. This tattoo will cause a computer to explode. No joke. If you type that in to your, on a PC, if you type that in on your command line prompt, it could very likely cause your computer to completely crash to the point where you have to hard reboot it. Psycho. So, interesting things that I find at a store and stick in my desktop images. So you'll probably see some weird ones over time. I previously mentioned how I thought Spotlight kind of sucked. So look, Photoshop. It comes up pretty fast, but in reality, this one just is so easy. It's just amazing. It remembers which programs you open the most, and then it opens them for you. It's just amazing. Let's see. Common programs that I use are recent items. So Photoshop, Evernote, GitHub, Chrome. These are work-related ones that have nothing to do with anything worth talking about. Email and chat tool. Pages I just use I use that instead of Word. QuickTime Player, because I watch videos. Sketch, and this app that I'm using to create this presentation is Zoom. And I would say if you all should have all of those programs. Absolutely. And guess what? The awesome thing is almost all of them are free. Photoshop is the expensive one. It is so expensive in comparison to anything else you're going to get, and that's just going to be the reality. You can try to hack it. You can try to get around the system. I recommend you don't. It's not worth it. it puts you in a position where you are actually pirating software. There's no reason to do that. $20 a month as a student is just fantastic for this price. And when you don't use it, just stop paying if you want. That works. It's a perfectly acceptable thing to do. So it's almost like kind of like you're dating the program. It's actually more like never mind, paid service. Not really a date. But Evernote is a great place to store ideas, to store images, and I use Sketch like mad. This app is so fun. You can see I do a lot of work related to sketching, but you can use it to grab screenshots. So like Command-Shift-5 gives me this, and Option 5, I don't know what that does. Command-Shift-5 gives me my Sketch window, and I'm like, oh, I want to capture that. Boom. Now it's in Sketch. As soon as it's in Sketch, it's syncing with my Evernote. Guess what? I love it. It's good. This program is super useful for you. You can just create an image that quickly, and then you can just drag it onto your desktop, and you're good to go. And now you've got that is now an image. Amazing. May not seem that special, but for me, I want this thing to be sort by name. It's really great to have the ability to take screenshots while you're doing work. It's like I use it all the time for software design, but it's also really useful for other activities. Hi, girls. I'm shooting a video on how to use Photoshop. I'm just letting you know, so if I don't mind taking a break and talking because I can cut out this junk, which I will. But so don't. That's fantastic. Sounds good. Are you guys gonna do the cosplay stuff? Awesome. Hey, ZZ. I just finished telling them I am actually working right now, and I'm recording for my class. What's that? ZZ, I have no idea. Can you ask Sony that kind of information right now? Because I'm actually working. I'm trying to get my class done. Okay? I'm teaching right now. Believe it or not. So definitely use Sketch. It's the best. It's free. You just go to, just SKITCH. This is what it looks like. Sketch. Fantastic program. It's great, and it's free. Evernote is free. Evernote has all kinds of stuff in it that are great features. I use it to take notes about just about everything, and if you start using it, you'll find that it's just mad awesome. So I cannot advocate for Evernote enough. Look at how weird this is. This is why I love Sketch. That is the most disgusting fish I've ever seen in my life. I made this little meme image. Anyway, I was telling you about useful tools, and let me see, are there any others that I told you about Zoom. So Zoom allows you to just invite people to meetings and share your screen, and you can record the sharing. So it can become a useful thing that kind of lives. The meeting lives instead of it just being something that exists only for the duration of the meeting. Let me see. Finally, so quick launchers. I also use that color tool. You probably saw that come up on the color picking tool. Unfortunately, I will not be giving you that one because it's not mine to give. Digital color meter is great too. So look at this. As I move my cursor over things, it tells me the exact color of what I'm mousing over. This is super useful when you're making stuff because you will need to be able to tell what that specific, like this border color, is. And that's going to be why those lock it in place. Jump cut. All right. Apologies. I was showing you digital color meter. It's fantastic. Let's get down to business and talk about Photoshop. Photoshop is organized with these notions of panels. So you have these little panels over here. This, I think, what I call this is the toolbar. It probably has another name. Let's see. Tools. Whoop, goes away. So they just call it tools now. I think of it as a toolbar. I think the reason why they call it tools is because it's not really a bar anymore. It floats. You can take it around and do things with it. I am a traditionalist back in like Adobe, I don't know, Photoshop 4.5 or something like that. It was docked at the left-hand side, and honestly, they should never have moved it. But there are times when you're doing highly mouse-intensive things where moving this down close to where you're working, if you're working on a drawing and you've got, line here that you have, and you want to be able to select that line and do things with it. Like, oh, I've got to do some things with this line. What am I going to do? Duplicate it, click and drag. See, what I'm clicking here is Command, Option, Shift. I click on it and drag, and that lets it move. When you're dragging something, oh, I just drove deep into it. So you can imagine, like, if you're going back between, this, and you want to be able to select that and then change some color or something, keep selecting other objects, and, then draw another line. You can imagine a scenario in which, like, having the tools really close to you are important. But in general, I just leave them over here. It's when you're optimizing your work that you start doing that stuff, and we're not there yet. So I'm going to walk through the tools, and we'll talk a little bit about this area up here. I'm going to talk about these things, and first I'm going to talk about this. So I recommend that you keep it on essentials for the time being. But as you move forward in your work, you're going to realize that there are certain times when you're doing like something that's really photo-oriented. When you're doing things that are photo-oriented, the adjustments are really important because you're, changing the contrast or adjusting the levels or adjusting curves or, mixing the channels, all important for photos, not what you need to worry about today. So just like there is one called Motion, and when you go into Motion, it opens the timeline, and you can create a video timeline. All these different things are related to creating animated GIFs or creating actual movies in Photoshop. Fantastic that you can do all that crap. You don't need to look at that now. Just stick in Essentials for a bit. You're good to go. With Essentials, what you get are the standard tools over here on the left, but over here with these panels, you get text-based ones. So like you can go into typography really easily. You can see your history. I put the history one there. I often will move it off screen over on my second monitor, but when notice I'm clicking in the middle area here, like mousing over where it says the word history. I don't think you can see my mouse, but you can click on that tab and just drag it down, and then it's on its own little window. Well, that's cool and all, but I want it to be right here because that just gets it out of the way, docks it in a common place that I can find it easily. These are adjustable. It's really great. If you're working on something that's like really wide screen, you can get to it really easily by expanding and contracting these. You can get to it even better by clicking on the tab. If you click on tab, all those panels go away. So if you're like painting or drawing a picture, click tab, hide all that crap. You don't have to look at all those things. And as much as it seems like it's not that distracting, it's distracting. It is there. It's adding cognitive load. Just get rid of it. Tab. So easy. But then the drawback is sometimes you'll hit tab on accident, and you'll be looking at your screen and be like, where the hell did my tools go? So Hit tab again. That's the first line of defense. Hit tab. See what happens. If that doesn't fix it, then very likely the right thing to do is to go into the Windows menu where you can turn on and off things. So if you turn all of these off and turn off your tools, it looks just like I hit tab. But now when I hit tab, it's doing so little I can't figure it out. It's in there. The checkbox next to things is telling you what things are currently being displayed. Very important information for you to be able to access, and what an easy way to be able to do it. The last thing was the character, and with that I'm also going to I want to make sure I have character styles. Actually, I don't need character styles. Never mind. So now I'm good to go. I actually don't need paragraph styles either. Screw that. All right. So that tells you there are tools over here. There are panels over here. Those can be clicked off and drug other places. They like to dock over there as well. It works really nice. I personally leave most things hanging out over here. Just makes life better for me in general. There are definitely instances where I move things, like I said earlier, like I'll move the history off onto a second monitor because I always want to see the history and be able to access it. If you look at this, what it's doing is showing you this is the most recent, this is the first thing I did, this is the last thing I did. And it keeps a certain number of those things and then they disappear. Makes sense. It's very straightforward. Properties, each one of these has its own kind of like set of information that it gives you about whatever it is that is currently selected or whatever. I'm going to step away from the panels over here for a little while and talk about the tools over on the left-hand side. What I'm going to do is walk through each of these little tools and give you like a high-level story about those tools. First thing I'm going to tell you is that the selected tool looks like that. Second thing I'm going to tell you is like if you mouse over them, you get to see what is currently in focus for that tool. And by currently in focus, I mean if you click on them and hold, you will see that there's a bunch of other things underneath the ones that have this little arrow. A little arrow means this is actually a menu. So complicated. It's really hard to get used to, but just remember that little arrow means there's crap under there. So as you go through these, this one is the, what do they call it? The move tool. If you notice the little V in parentheses there, that if you hit the letter V, I'm going to select the marquee tool. Watch this. If I hit the V, changes focus to the move tool. If I hit A, it's going to go to the direct selection tool. If I hit D, it's going to go to the brush. If I hit P, it's going to go to the pen tool. If I hit M, it's going to go back up there. If I hit B, it's going to go there. I do not have them all memorized. I have some of them memorized because I go through them all the time. And it's the easiest way that you can do things. Once again, ease. If you're thinking, oh, it's not that hard to just move your mouse over there, but if you're drawing a picture over here and you want it to go, so I'm going to give you an example. So I'm using the pen tool, I'm drawing some lines, making some curvy things, whatever. What a horribly ugly shape that is. If I'm like, no, I want to move that, I just hit V. I'm already right there. I can just, I don't even know what it's on. I guess I must not have it selected. I need to select that dog. So see, I went over there and got that one. Now I've got this. If I click over to the V, it's still not letting me move it. This layer is locked. Oh, I'm drawing. So this is a frustrating thing that I'm sure that there's somebody at Adobe that could tell me what this is, but I've never met that person. Why would you make the background a locked layer by default? I don't know. A locked layer means that you cannot do things to it, but yet I was able to draw that stupid picture on that stupid layer. So all you need to do, double click that stupid thing. It turns it into layer 0. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It should just be layer 0 by default, in my opinion, but I don't work for Adobe. You can lock layers, and having a lock layer is brilliant at times because now I'm like, oh, I need to work up on this other layer, and I don't want to have to worry about this layer. That's fine. I get that. The fact that it's locked by default is just irritating. So now I'm like, all right, I've drawn my drawing. I want to move it. Oh, I'm moving that. What? Why would that be happening? I actually am confused by things like that at times. So what I'm moving there is the white background. How frustrating. Just so weird. What I'm going to show you is that if I use the path selection tool, so notice I went underneath here. I had the direct selection tool. Where the direct selection tool is awesome, and I was going to talk about this later, but I'll talk about it now. The direct selection tool lets you grab a path by either selecting multiple areas on that path and then moving the whole thing, or selecting specific. Oh. All right. Direct selection tool. It's the white one, not the black one. This is the kind of stuff that's going to kill you in Photoshop. You can select path or anchor points by clicking and dragging. You see it's creating that little marquee looking shape, and then it selects those. If I do it over here, it's going to select those two. Then I can move them in unison. So if I wanted to move those three, really weird, can do cool things. That seems very impractical, but at times it's very practical. Like let's say I want this shape right here to move that way a few pixels. No problem. There's no other way to do that. None. So that's why the white guy, direct selection tool, is awesome. But path selection tool is very similar. It lets you grab the whole path. So you just click on that one and you can move the whole thing. You can't stretch it with that tool. You could stretch it if you hit Command T, which is the same as going Edit, Transform Path. Then you can stretchy, make it all different shapes. Notice when I grab that corner, it's stretching the crap out of it. It's making it all different shapes. You can flip it. What? You can imagine that's very useful. But a lot of times you want it to retain the same shape. In that case, what you're going to do is just hit Shift Select. You're going to do a transform. Hold the Shift key down. If you grab that corner, it scales. I think I refer to this as a fixed transform. Doesn't really matter. I deselected that, by the way. I killed off the transform by hitting the Escape key, the ESC up in the top left corner of your keyboard. It's a really good tool to be using. Like, I think what I'm trying to impress upon you is that you're going to go back and forth between interacting with the mouse and the keyboard. It's interesting, but you know, people think of the mouse as your primary selection tool, and the keyboard is where you type or do shit like that. But stuff like that. Expletives. Why? The keyboard is a useful tool, and Adobe was smart in saying, hey, you know what? When you're trying to optimize your behavior and you're trying to do things fast, you've got to be able to use both the keyboard and the mouse. And I'm telling you, for like years, I never used the keyboard. I thought it was like, why would I spend my time memorizing that? You know, that A is the, you know, direct selection or path selection tool, and G is the move tool. The reality is that they're both very useful. And if you try to treat them in isolation of one another, like the mouse or the keyboard, like you can't do what you need to do with just a keyboard, usually. It's possible. It's very hard. You can't do everything that you need to do with just a mouse. It's possible, but it's actually very hard. but it's actually so easy that we don't realize it's hard. So just be open to it and try it. Try to learn some key commands. For instance, do you use copy and paste? On a Mac, it's Command V and Command C, Command C, Command V. On a PC, it's Control C, Control V. Brilliant. You got to use that stuff. If you don't use that, you're going to be behind. I mean, otherwise you have to go all the way up here and go edit, copy, or cut here, and then paste. That's just, it's so much easier to do it with your fingertips. So I recommend that you go that route. Going back to our list of tools, we've got the Move tool. We've got the Marquee tool. Underneath the Marquee tool, we've got Rectangle, Ellipse, Single Row, Single Column. I never use these last two ever. I think some people do. I can't think of why I would do that. I just can't. Polygon and Lasso tool. Lasso tool lets you draw a picture like that. You can select areas like that. Polygon is very similar, but you're doing it by points. Now you have a selection that's that shape. And if I want to get fancy and put down a mask, what I did is I came down to the bottom right corner underneath my layers palette, and then I grabbed onto this little guy, add vector mask, and boom, the background just disappeared in this diamond shape. How cool is that? I can turn that off by just saying disable. It comes back. This lasso is awesome. Quick selection. You just go, and it selects based on like looking at the colors and see them. I just told it to select the whole. See what I'm doing here? I'm just clicking here. Command D deselects, by the way. I click here. It's saying, oh, I'm going to select this area. But as I start to do more, it realizes that, oh, this all looks the same. I'm going to select it all. That is super quick. That's a fairly new tool. The Magic Wand is very similar. It's going to grab a tolerance of 32 hue points and grab only those. This stuff gets crazy, but you can see here there are a bunch of things that are associated with the selected tool. You see every one of them, they change up there. You need to just experiment to figure those out. Like, oh, so this is the crop tool. And I already had a selection here, so it gives me a highlighted area. And I can actually rotate that, so I'm cropping, this section. What? That's crazy. There's a lot of functionality. I could say that selection is unconstrained, which it currently is, or the original ratio, which means it's going to look at the scale of the current image, the image canvas size, and it's going to constrain this crop selection to be, I don't even have to hold the shift. It's just going to do the exact same size in different places, and then I can move it around. Fantastic. Then there's all these presets. That's fantastic stuff. That's good stuff. Straighten. You could even have to straighten. Whoa, so hard to use. Straighten is not easy. You draw straight, let's see if I can get this straight. So I'm going to draw a line along this area, this edge. Try to make it perfectly straight. That's amazing. That is some coolness. I don't ever use that. The fact that it's there is really amazing. And if you're editing photos, that's really a powerful tool. I don't spend a lot of time editing photos in the way that most people do, so it isn't something that I would utilize, but I could see a lot of value there. Crop tool has perspective crop, slice tool, and slice select tool. All I'm going to tell you about this is when it comes to the slice tool, what the slice tool is about is finding areas in a document that need to have actions associated with them. This is madness, but it's awesome. So basically, you could design a web page or something of that nature and select an area and say, if somebody clicks on this area, it will then do this. So I've now created that. Edit slice options, slice type, no image or image. So why would that even be there? Because I'm working on an image. Well, imagine you're building a web page. And let's say, make this more real. That's abstract. So this white area, I want to have be blank, actually, on a web page. So what I would do is I would say edit slice option. I would say no image. So this is my content. So that would be like text content, right? Slice background. Oh, wow, I can make it white or black. I'm going to make it black. No, I'm going to make it white. You can also have it be some other random color using your color selector, color picker. Why it looks like that right now, I don't know. Oh, there we go. So I clicked an empty area. So now I can say it's going to be red. Then if I do, let me do this. Preview. Oh, Command Shift Save, maybe? Ah, look at that. So I'm saying do ping 24. And where do I turn on the slices? Original, optimal, preview. Look at that. Same thing. What I didn't do, however, was make, leave that open in case I want that later. I didn't add any other slices, so this slice looked like crud. But if I right click in there, edit slice options there, and I say I want that to be an image, and I want this to be no image but empty and white, no background. So if I do that, and then I do Command Shift Save, Command Option Shift Save, I hit Preview. Right, that one up there that said image did not turn out the way I wanted it to. So what the hell's with that? That should be a ping. Oh, the challenge, the thing that's going wrong, I see now, is that this path that I've created here, it's currently just a path. It has no stroke or nothing. So how do I make that show? Well, it's actually a lot easier than you think. What I would do, one way to do it, is you go to the effects tool and you say, oh, I want this to be actually the color. That is not what I wanted. What the hell? I've selected my path. Cut that baby out. And then I'm going to go to a new layer and paste that baby on that layer. So fill path. All right, I took it a long way. I'm going to right click on my path. And I'm going to say, there we go, now we've got our path. So I can say, why is it not letting me fill this thing? No. So one option is that I can create vector mask with that and then fill that area, like that whole layer, with color. So we'll do kind of a cheater way to do it. Put in there. Oh, sorry. I always forget. Oh, it's under paint bucket. This used to be like my favorite, right? Then I select the layer and I say, because the target layer is hidden. Oh, it's turned on. So now I've filled that with the foreground color, which is set to that. Let's say I want it to be green. All right. So now I'll hit Command Option Shift Save. Now I've got that. Look what happens when I preview. So you've got the shape that I created here, cuts it out as an image, and then turns the slice into HTML content. That's kind of amazing. It really makes life faster. So we're not going to do a web page that looks like this right now. So that's cool. But what I am going to do is delete those guys because I think they're crap. Get out of here. Why can't I delete you? I'm going to select you. I'm going to delete you. I'm going to select you. Oh, I can't delete it because it's the last layer. I'm going to create a new layer, get rid of this guy. And now I've got a blank image again. And I'm going to use my path tool here, or my slice tool, to select these slices, and I'm going to delete them. So now my slices are done. If I do view, I can, where's my slice tool? So this is the kind of stuff that makes me a bit crazy. Maybe because why would it still be showing me a slice? That's what I don't understand. So if I go here and I say slice tool and then I right click and say delete slice. Why can't I get rid of my slice? Slice options, that's an image. Whatever. Edit that part. Slice tool, powerful, good stuff. Under here, we've got, this is the way that you pull up samples of colors. So that's the eyedropper tool. But there's a million other. There's the 3D material eyedropper tool, which I will not be going into right now because it is complex and it's advanced. And it is powerful and really cool, but we're not going to talk about it at this point. Color sampler tool, what does this do in particular? Oh, it will sample multiple colors. Well, how cool is that? That's very cool. Not something I want to do right now. So I'm going to hide this panel altogether. Close time. And I'm going to select another tool. How do I get rid of this? Clear. Gone. But it's still brought up the info. So I think info is cool and all. And I'm going to put it over here on the layers because I want this guy to be around, but I don't need it in my face all the time. I didn't want it like that. I wanted it up in there. There we go. Useful, not necessary. Spot healing brush, patch tool, content aware move tool, and red eye tool. Those are really focused image tools that you will sometimes use when you're working to like get rid of a blemish on somebody's face or get rid of their red eye or do something completely insane and goof with it and have fun. That's the beauty of these tools, is that you can goof around with them and find really creative uses that don't make sense. Do it. Go crazy. Brush tool. It makes a brush. It does some colored things. That's not. I'm working right now, so let's make this fast.
Do I have any brushes?
Brush tool. Draw pictures with it. It has some crazy settings that allow you to choose harder edge brushes. Look at the difference between that line and that line. You can adjust the size. Giant! You could imagine if it's fuzzy in that size, fuzzy. And then the modes. I'm not going to get into blend modes right now. They are very complicated and awesome. All of these are really powerful things that you can do. This allows you to actually, this little icon up here in the top left allows you to adjust all this crazy stuff related to your brush. It is amazing, the stuff you can do. It changes the shape of your brush. You can make the hardness stronger. There are just amazing characteristics related to the brush that you can do with Photoshop. I just love it. Look at it. Wet edges. What? It's beautiful. But the only way to understand this stuff is for you to dig around and try it out. So, you know, I'm going to close this tab group because it's just distracting for me. What I would say is brush lets you do a lot of cool stuff. The idea behind a brush, imagine how a brush is in real life when you're painting. It has characteristics. You can make the brush wetter, and then when you draw the line, it gets sloppy on the edges. That's the wet edges thing. If you imagine choosing a brush that has a very tight, hard bristle. When you draw a line with it, it's going to be like, it's like cutting with the brush. It's beautiful. But if you get one that has softer bristles, when you brush over it, it's going to be like the edges are going to be drapey and beautiful and juicy. This is all stuff that you can do in Photoshop. It's really cool. Then you might say, well, actually, I want hard lines to be drawn, and I want a lot of control over those. And then you would choose a pencil tool. Hard lines get very fine. Like the first one was a 1 pixel line. You can draw texture. You can do all these different things. It's fantastic. Love this tool. Color replacement tool. I never use this. It's now letting me, I don't know what color it's replacing it with. Never, like I said, never use this. But look at how it's doing it. It's choosing the area in there, and it doesn't get rid of the white. It gets rid of the green. So you can actually, if I zoom in, got this little area here, I can choose to go right to that edge and then come back over, and it's respectful of the color. And it's, notice the tolerance is 30%. If I change that to be higher, it will probably actually not leave those weird lines in between as often. So, but those weird lines could be an asset in your drawings. So I would say experiment if you're going to use this and see what happens. You know, see what you can do with it. Also choose saturation instead of color. It's cool. You know, I never use this tool. I don't do the kinds of work that require this tool very often, but I'm glad it's there. Mixer brush tool. I don't use this one, even less. Give it a try. This is one of those things that look up a tutorial that is related to this, and you will find a wealth of knowledge that you don't need very often. Clone stamp. So you have to pick up what you want to clone. Let's say I like this little weird area right here. It puts it there. How cool. Notice what it's doing? It's moving along in relationship to where okay, so if I pick this, and then I click there, at first time, it's going to draw that little spot, and then it's going to allow me to continue to draw the spot that was contiguous. Notice when I click, you see that it's showing where I'm clicking is where it's bright, dark, black crosshairs, and then there's light colored crosshairs up above. It's copying that area up above. That is some coolness, in my opinion. But it creates a very strange scenario that you need to really kind of understand in order to utilize in a way that makes sense. So give it a try, play with it. It's amazing. Pattern stamp tool, I think, does the same thing for the most part, but it's going to stamp whatever pattern is selected. So I've got this weird pattern here that I can draw. How neato. Weird. Patterns are really neat. We'll get deep into patterns later. Not right now. History brush. I would say don't use it very often because it's weird. Stay away from it. Art history brush, even weirder. Just this is a tool, once again, complex use cases that you're not going to need right now. If you want to go deep right now, you can Google it. Eraser, obvious, right? It's an eraser. Background eraser, what the heck is that? Well, background eraser will get rid of the background and not the foreground. How do you know it's the background or the foreground? Well, the area you click is going to be the background. And then it knows, oh, I shouldn't delete things that are in the foreground. It's pretty obvious, you know. If I click there, look, it deleted the green and not the white because I'm clicking into the green. Very useful. Magic Eraser is going to say, like, I'm going to erase all that green, that whole area. Gone. I'm going to get rid of all that white. Gone. It takes the contiguous area and deletes it. That's great. It's a very useful tool. Paintbrush, I think I already showed you. You can just fill stuff up. Gradient tools. Awesome. That was not awesome, though. I took you off the tape. Gradient tool, you draw a line, it creates a gradient. The gradient is controlled by this stuff. I can make an ugly thing there. I could do, this one's kind of like, bam! Weird. You can get way deep into the gradients as well and start editing the colors. You can say, I want it to be shaped that, or this, or radial, or even diamond shape. Very cool. Very useful. And then 3D material drop tool. What? We're not going to get into 3D. Sorry. I started to go down a bad path there. Blur tool. I want to get this edge blurred. Look at that. It's amazing. I don't know if you're seeing that up close. Watch. Those little lines that you're seeing now, those are the individual pixels. Wow. I'm zoomed way in, and I want to blur this line. So now this crappy white that was in there is gone, and it looks good. I mean, not really, because it's a horrible drawing, but you get my picture. It's blurring it away so that it starts to look, I want to get rid of this white line. Get rid of it. You can fix stuff. It's good. Then you've got the sharpen tool. I'm going to make those edges in there kind of stand out more, make them more of a rigid edge. See what I'm doing here. So this little area in the middle that's like gray to green, if I want to sharpen that and make it so that it really becomes more pronounced. Look at that. Whoa. It's calling out the colors and bringing them forward. And then smudge. Go in the same area and smudge the heck out of it. Just rub it around. This is like drawing with charcoal and then smearing it with your fingers. Then we've got the burn, dodge, and sponge tool. Dodge. That is going to, if you've taken photo classes, you know what that does. If you haven't taken photo classes, you don't know what that does. Dodge is going to be as if you put, while you're developing a photo, a opaque object in front of an area of the photo while you're exposing the film to light. And what that does is it makes the effects of the light less pronounced. We call it dodging. There's the opposite of that. It's called burning, and that's when you're giving extra light to an area. Now notice what it's doing. Turning darker. Pardon me. Like I said earlier, this is very relevant to people who do photo. People who don't, it's going to be a learning curve on it. Experiment with it. Try to understand how it works. It will be powerful for you. Sponge tool. What? Sponge tool is doing, I can tell you exactly what the sponge tool is doing. Let's Google this. Photoshop sponge tool. Sponge tool. This will be a good example of what you can find. Somebody did a great job, I'm sure, on this. It's 8 minutes long. I'm not going to play it for you right now, but there are many ways to add or subtract saturation from images using Photoshop. Here we'll look at the sponge tool and how it works and how to get the best results. I'm turning that off. So it has to do with saturation. I am not a photographer, so I cannot tell you exactly how sponge relates to the history of photography, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Pen tool. I quickly used the pen tool earlier. Pen tool is, as you can see when we zoom in on these, there are pixels that are present. When you work with the pen tool, we're not talking about pixels. We're talking about what's called a vector. So I just created this path, and that path then can be used in different ways. The path that I drew is paths were originally like stuck into Illustrator. To go back to Photoshop 4.5 when I started, or 3 or whatever I started on, there were no paths at all. You were dealing only with bitmaps. Bitmaps are things that are made up out of pixels. Paths are things that are made up mathematically using points and connecting them with either straight or curvy lines. Right now we've got a straight line path. Notice where it's touching. Each of these points where it's touching is firmly tied to a pixel intersection. And that is because those points are mathematically deduced based on the exact pixel locations. Very cool. Once I've drawn one, I can grab the edges and I can move them snapping along. Those pixels, let's say I want to make that a square. I would grab them, and I would drag them, and I would turn them into a square. That's a rectangle, not a square. That's a rectangle. That, I believe, is a square. So now I've got a square one, but let's say I want to turn that into a circle. This is so cool. I can take that, go down to the Convert Point tool, and turn these into curves. How do I make it into a circle? I can make it a curvy line really easily. Whoa. A perfect circle, not so easy. Oh my gosh. But you get the picture. If I hold down the Option key, it makes it square. Ooh, that's kind of fun. What if I do a semi-curvy? It's kind of a fun guy. If I go back to Path Selection tool, now I can move this around. Then I can use that to create a vector mask. And no, maybe not. I can create a new layer, and then I can say I want to define a custom shape. If I define a custom shape, that'll be a shape that I can plop down easy in the future. I can fill this path. That's what I want to do. Now I'm going to fill it with color, like 50% gray. Bam! And I can transform that all and make it different sizes. Oh no. Why is it? Oh, it just filled the area. Alright, well, learning moment. When you fill a path, it only fills it for a little bit. Make selection. I don't want to just select this on the path. Create vector mask. Bam. So now this area that I filled just got blocked by my vector mask. If I want to create the vector mask right on top of it, leave it right there, create vector mask. Now I've got my shape, I can resize that. Let's just reshape it. Let's resize it. Select on there, and then I have to say convert path to extrusion. No, I do not want to no, I told you no, I didn't want an extrusion. Extrusions are a 3D object. So there we go. Now we've got our shape. Same shape. And I can scale it up. By the way, I'm hitting Command and plus to do that. Maybe I want to stretch it. No, I don't want to stretch it. And I double click it. Now I've got the filled vector path right there. But I'm still not, it's not my path. You know, they're two separate things. My path is still there. So I can drag that out wherever I want. I can Command T it. I can change that shape, make it bigger. I can hit enter there and lock into place. I can do, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to do FX. Let's do a color overlay. Drag. See, it's still doing it on the layer. This is my vector mask. That's the problem. You get my point. So I've got my shape, got my vector mask. I don't know where my path went. I think if I went to paths here, I might see it. With my work path, with my vector mask. If I select my work path, I can delete it. When you go into path mode like that, it will isolate each individual path so you can see it, and that's nice and all. If I select, oh, I have this path and I want to actually change the shape a little bit, notice I just moved the path. I want to grab the direct selection tool so I can pinch it in a little bit. So now I'm pinching my layer mask. Notice the area underneath it that it's masking has been transformed based on the previous selected area. So I can pinch this down because I'm working with the vector mask and make it a more confined space. Lots of different things I can do here to manipulate this mask. But it's, once again, this is stuff that you're going to learn through doing, not learning through being shown. So what I'm trying to do is just introduce you to the features here. So I've got stroke tool. Underneath that, there's all these different polygons. I can do a rectangle really easily. I can do a circle really easily. Just like with the transform tool, if I hold shift down, I get a square. It's going to constrain to that square shape. Notice it's adding a layer for each of these, because these are vectors. Much like the path, these are vectors. I can add a point to any of these using my pen tool, add an anchor point tool, bam. Now I've got a little spot in there, I can drag it around. Think about the implications of that. You could draw a shape really easily and then make it curvy like that, which seems pretty dorky, but it's actually pretty awesome because now I have this thing and create an intrusion in my shape very easily. And also select them and delete them, which is really nice. You can also delete things by right-clicking. I just started to transform this, so I can't delete it. Now that it's selected, I can just hit the boom, 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 boom. Back down to my horrible beginning. Command and delete just deleted the whole layer and filled it with the background color, which is this bright green. What just flickered, I don't know. Because I did that one thing, I opened the 3D tool, and I want nothing to do with that. I'm showing now the history palette. I just deleted everything, and I don't want to do that. Step back, step back, step back, step back, and jump way back. And jump back forward again. I can say, I want to create a snapshot of this, and I want to create a snapshot of this. Now I can jump between those snapshots and be able to start working again. So I want to make this one my current one. No, actually, I want to make this one my current one. Now I'm back. I have layers again. I can start goofing off. It's great. What a beautiful thing. I can jump back to this one again and start drawing there. You see how it's working? Beautiful. I'm showing you these. Custom shape, you're doing weird things. What? I just grabbed the most recent custom shape. Starburst. How fun is that? Instant starburst. And like I said previously, I could start adding some shapes to these and make it look really weird. And then I could say, I want this to be a new custom shape. I can right click on that and then say, make custom, define custom shape. And then I've got a blurbicle, whatever it is. And then you can redraw those really easily by just flopping them down with your custom shape tool. Then we've got our move tool. Hand tool. Hand tool only makes sense in the context of something that's really zoomed in. Because what this basically does is it navigates you around that canvas. And then there's the rotate view tool. This is another one. What? I've never used it, honestly. Shows you how you can just kind of snap things. If I want to turn it 90 degrees, hold the shift key down, and I can just make it 90 degrees, and then when I zoom out, it's 90 degrees from what I had before. Then the compass point is going to show you what's up, literally upwards along the x-axis. Right? y-axis. And then go to the right, it makes it bigger. You go to the left, it makes it smaller. You can also click, and it'll zoom in. But Shift Option click, move back. That's all there is to it. This is good. Quick Mask. Quick Mask is great. I don't use it all that often. I think the way it would work is if I selected this area, then I click Quick Mask. I don't use it. What does it do? Quick Mask is, I will do it either look it up in a tutorial or I'll do a tutorial later if people really want to go. So, standard screen mode, full screen mode with menu bar, and full screen mode. I'm just going to show you. These are screen modes. This is like, okay, now we are in full screen mode. And now we are with menu bar. And now we're in full screen, just straight up full screen. You escape, you go away. This is one of those things where you can get lost really quick. Full screen mode, or full screen with menu. Yes, I get it. So this is like I'm working on my art mode, and it works great. It's really good. The challenge I have with it is that sometimes beginning students will start doing it and they'll get trapped in here and they can't get out. Just always try escape first if you get trapped somewhere. Just hit escape. It's often what you need to do. I think I wanted to call out also, I think this is true. I don't usually use full screen mode. Nope, the only way to do it is escape. In some things that go into full screen mode, if you mouse towards the top of the screen, it exposes the menu again. That's not the case with this. I'm going to do one final thing. This area down here is interesting. This gives you kind of top-level data about your tool. It has all these other options. You can like go, oh, I want to see how long have I been working on this tool. How efficient? I don't know efficiency. Save progress. This stuff, 1 pixel equals 1,000 pixels. Scratch sizes. That's like, I'm most interested in the document sizes